The first light of sunrise turned the water of the Pamlico Sound to gold, the clouds to rose, and the dark to morning, promising Evie Farrow that today would be just like yesterday, just like tomorrow, just like every other day on this tiny island in North Carolina's Outer Banks. She could fight it, or she could embrace it. But there was fighting enough going on in the world, and Evie had always preferred the way of peace. So she drew in a long breath filled with her favorite perfume, yeast, sugar, and cinnamon, and slid the still warm sweet rolls into her basket. She paused one moment more to stare out the window of the kitchen toward the view of the Sound that had always, always soothed her. Later she'd walk its shores, perhaps even circle around to where the Atlantic joined its tamer sister with heightened waves and currents. She'd take her familiar path. She'd search for shells and sea glass. She'd pray for everyone she loved most. Too many of them were on the other side of that ocean now. Too many of them were caught up in the war that made the ocean a harbinger of enemies instead of friends. But then, they had always been capricious, those waters. They stole as often as they gave, but she loved them. A light hand touched her arm, and Evie spun around, smiling at Grandma C, who held out a cup of steaming coffee. Evie touched her fingertips to her mouth and then lowered them away from her in the second sign she'd ever been taught. Thank you. She slid her fingers into the familiar handle and lifted the mug for a fortifying sip. Grandma C smiled too, and made a series of quick hand movements, her usual morning greeting. Time to race the sun. Evie chuckled and leaned over to smack a kiss onto the familiar feathery soft cheek. I'm going. No need to sign those words. Though Grandma C wouldn't hear them, she could read them well enough, and knew to expect them. It was their daily script.